Alright, welcome back to another stream. We are continuing on with the Spearmaster speedrunning. I'm actually going to do two different things this stream. We're not restarting game. Right now, I am at Pebbles. And I basically want to continue the rest of the run from here with no creatures. So focus mainly on the movement. Because, you know, up until Pebbles, it's pretty much just like Survivor Pebbles percent. I'm already familiar with that movement, so I don't really think I need to practice it as much. But like Pebbles, zero gravity movement, and like all of Underhang, Precipice, and then Moon, like all of that is stuff that I need to practice more. So we're starting right here. And after this practice, I want to actually start doing attempts. So I'll start the timer, turn off all the like extra mods. I think the mods I have now are the same as other practice attempts, so like dev tools, warp menu, Beastmaster for the grapple worm, stuff like that. Oh, not good. Yeah, jump off of that wall. Also right here, just so that I can practice the pebble skip. That's what I'm calling it, even though it's not very descriptive of what you're doing here. It's a good spot to be in. So there's a little bit of randomness in your position and Pebble's position. Oh, he's actually moved away from me. Quite far. So the moment I wake up, I need to get over here. You can see how kind of close that can be. Jump right then. And we're out of here. So, like, while Pebbles doesn't have the most difficult movement in the world, it's pretty easy to make a mistake and get stuck floating around in the air, which loses a lot of time. I don't think I want to do that jump. Like, I think I should have jumped down instead of diagonally down. Because even if you're going down, you can adjust sideways by grabbing onto these vines. I don't know if it's worth it to like grab onto these vines to jump off of them. I don't know if that speeds you up or just slows you down. Just doing that is like fine enough. It's consistent. Oh, that's maybe it's not consistent. If you try to grab stuff while holding down, you end up dropping it, like I just did several times. So just be careful with that. So for this room, I want to kind of stick to the top of it. Since there's a spear here, I'm fine with throwing that rock away. And now I can throw this up to readjust. This area is mostly just about remembering where you should go. With a little bit of a maze. Also, sorry for any background noise that you might hear throughout this stream. I don't know how well the mic picks it up. You may be able to hear some of it. That rock bounced back up and... Ooh, I jumped. Why'd that send me so down? Okay, well, I guess that still works. Not ideal. Maybe you should try to jump like diagonally. Now we go down here. I think we go down here. Yes. Might be going too far to the left. No, just perfect. So you can't get stuck on that block up there. So this room doesn't have anything dangerous in it. Don't want to get stuck on that. It's better to just jump up. You can't get stuck on anything. a lot of spears flying around. I wish that like there were less spears and pebbles, but then after Spearmaster in the timeline, you would find a lot of spears, and they'd be a different kind. I know that there's a mod that does that. They throw some spears around that are made by Spearmasters to suggest that that modded character takes place right after Spearmaster, but unfortunately I don't think it's a thing in actual Downpour. Oh, look at the stream. It did not take me 12 minutes to get to Pebbles. I started at the very beginning of Pebbles just because I feel like I don't really need to practice the movement up until Pebbles. All of this part of the run after Pebbles, like starting from Pebbles and then afterwards, is all unique to Spearmaster, so I want to practice it separately. And this is with creatures disabled. After this practice attempt, I will do actual attempts of the speedrun, just without any mods or help. That'll be fun when we get to it. I don't even know if I'll be able to finish a run, but we'll see. Didn't line that up great, but it still worked out. So I missed all the neurons there. There we go. You can get a decent amount of food from these neurons, actually, depending on how many you hit, so it's kind of luck based. Maybe that's a good thing that I want to grab onto this pole. And then we might as well just go up and above. So there's nothing really to grab onto to send you on the bottom path. So this works totally fine. Let's try this. Kind of jump sideways and then throw up to readjust. It can be difficult to enter these tunnels. It may be worth it just to go side. But that all worked out. And then you just jump straight down. This is pretty much where Pebbles ends. There's no more of these open zero gravity areas. Well, there's like one room. Rain rolled F and F. Is that a mod? I think I might have seen that. The reason you don't go through unfortunate development because it's more difficult. That's not really a good reason. I mean, I haven't tried it. So I suppose, you know, maybe it's worth it to practice it a little bit, but I kind of like that the iterators are like kind of a point where you can just relax for a bit. Because through other parts in the run, there's a lot of creatures, a lot of dangerous things that you have to worry about. And the iterators are like completely safe. So kind of like that they're just like a quick break in the middle of the run, and going through unfortunate development would mean that it's no longer a break, and it's another really hard part of the run. And you might be able to find some consistent strategy that works that can get through it, but consistent strategies don't really exist in Pebbles. Movement is just quite inconsistent, and the like tentacles on the walls can be like in random positions too, so you might like take the route that you always take, and then a tentacle is just reaching out a little bit further than usual, so it grabs you and you just die and you lose the run. I mean, it's not the worst thing to lose a run at Pebbles, but once you get up to Pebbles, you don't really want to, like, that feels like you started the run, so you really don't want to lose it at that point. But it's probably faster. Also, like, you can really optimize the... I didn't really want to fall down here. You can really optimize the 0G movement in the rest of the area. But for unfortunate developments, there's just these cycles, you know? Gravity keeps switching on and off, so you kind of have to wait around sometimes for the gravity to switch if you're in a bad spot. It's probably easier going down, since you can make progress with gravity on or off, but it'd actually be harder with gravity on. Maybe. I mean, I guess I'd have to try it out, but I'd rather just take the consistent route every time and actually have an easier time finishing a run. This is where we cheat. There's usually a grapple worm here anyway, so it's not unrealistic. I'm probably going to emphasize or focus on just being safe with my grapple worm movement, because there's more that can be optimized if you take more risks. So, oh, gravity doesn't change. That actually makes sense. That's there isn't as much rot. But it actually means it's just more difficult, since it's always 0 gravity. Is Rain World fun? That's a really tough question, actually. I think about that sometimes. I think the game is fun for me, because I've learned so much of it, and I've like gotten so familiar with the movement that it's not really clunky anymore. So I know that like some big complaints about the game is that it's just like got a kind of unintuitive movement system and like creatures and such. And like I know where the shelters are, so if it's ever like late in the cycle and I need to stay in a shelter, I know where to go. Right? I never get lost. I know what creatures to expect. I know what all the creatures do. I know how to like get past every jump in the game. Rain World, I like to joke and say, it's good. That's not how I say it. It gets good a few hundred hours in. And I know that like there's, you know, you can enjoy the start of the game, you know, if you really like exploring around, but pretty much everyone is going to go through the process of getting stuck in some areas. I mean, I ask anyone who's like speedrunning the game now, and they will talk about some experiences they had in like Chimney Canopy or the wall or the leg, you know, anywhere in the game, and they say like, oh, I got stuck there for like an hour, dying to creatures, and I couldn't get my karma high enough. All that kind of stuff. And you know, at the skill level that I'm at, I think it becomes fun because it's more of a game to me now, right? Whether it's enjoyable before this point, it depends on how much you like the like exploration, how curious you are to like discover the world and to try to like learn the behavior of creatures and the movement system. But it can feel very obtuse at times. And as you go into the downpour characters, I think I should have gone up top. As you go into the downpour characters, the quality kind of goes back and forth a bit. Gormon can be especially annoying to play if you don't know how to deal with the stamina, but also it can be fun to use a bunch of creative methods of combat, like falling on creatures or making use of your extremely powerful spears or crafting bombs. You know, there's also all sorts of things that Gormon can do. Oops, let's not just do that jump like that. Artificer has really fun abilities, but also they have to fight a bunch of scavengers, which can be quite annoying if you don't like fighting scavengers. Of course, this depends on how you deal with scavengers normally. Spearmaster, the character that I'm playing right now, is quite difficult, and just the amount of difficult creatures that you have to deal with. Red lizards, red centipedes, king vultures, just all the nasty things. Not fall in that hole. I think that Spearmaster can especially feel very unfair when you have to carry the pearl around, or if you go through like garbage wastes, for example. Why did I grab onto that? Feels like sometimes there can be like too many just overpowered creatures for no reason, and you just don't have that many tools to deal with them. I think that it's worth it eventually. If you struggle in the beginning and think it's unfair, maybe you need to take a few breaks from the game. eventually it becomes incredibly worthwhile. When I first played the game, I thought it was cool. I never really was blind to it because I pretty much like started with some amount of knowledge. I had watched like live streams and videos of the game before I even like bought it. That's what I do for most games. I don't really like getting games unless I know in advance that I'm going to enjoy it, which not many. But for Rain World, you know, it grew on me a lot. Because it started as a game like, oh yeah, this is like an underrated game that I think is cool, but you know, it's kind of janky at times and it's kind of hard to enjoy sometimes. But then like, you know, as I played it more, it kind of rose up the ranks of like my favorite games, and I think it might be my favorite game of all time, especially with Downpour, just adding more to it. Although I think that Downpour doesn't quite succeed as a sequel, although it is very interesting and adds lots of content. Oh, I can also say that since I never really was blind to the game, I always made use of like resources like maps and like the wiki. Like I would look stuff up. I never really got the experience of discovering everything for myself. So, you know, maybe the game would be more enjoyable had I not known stuff in advance, but also it would have been more difficult, right? If you really like games where you're exploring a completely unique world, low gravity, to make use of that, you're going to enjoy Rain World because it's probably the most unique game ever. The world building is also just like amazing. The way you can kind of uncover parts of the story just by exploring around and just like, making observations. I love how I think the best thing that Downpour does is add to the sense of like the fact that this is like a whole universe, you know? The way you get to see the whole world at different points of the timeline through the different characters' campaigns. Like you can see what Garbage Waste looks in the past. You can see what Moon looks like in the past, like where we are right now. You can see what happens to Pebble in the future. Just all that sort of stuff. I think it's fascinating, and Downpour executes it perfectly. Other parts of the game aren't as great. I certainly have a lot of things to complain about. What's the point of a campaign called Spearmaster if you can't use the spear for half the run? That's what I say. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's strange that like the main strength of the characters is that they can create spears and they can hold multiple spears at once, unlike any other character except for Hunter, I suppose. But then you have to carry this item that prevents you from holding 2 spears, so your ability is immediately negated. So I don't really understand. I think that characters like Artificer or Rivulets would have been perfect for this campaign since there's a lot of just traveling across the map. Like I think that going through Precipice would be a lot of fun as those characters. Unfortunately, Precipice is kind of useless as Artificer. I think it might lead to Shoreline, but otherwise there's no really reason to go there. Actually, I don't even think it goes to Shoreline. The whole thing is collapsed. Are you supposed to know the story? So mostly the game is very like, it doesn't tell you much about the story. The most that you can find out is just by like observing the world and talking to the iterators. And it is the iterators that eventually kind of reveal more of the lore through the pearls. So if you really want to know the story, just like journey across the entire map and look for pearls that have a unique color. Kind of like the one that I'm holding right now, because there's the there's the white pearls, right? And those are just kind of generic, although they still have like unique dialogue if you give them to Moon. But it's the colored pearls that have most of the like unique information about the world. And if you want, you can go and find every single one of those pearls and bring them all back to Moon. And she will tell you about the lore, the story, which I think is a ridiculous process. I don't know how many people actually went out and like looked for all the pearls, because I just like looked on the wiki, just read them all there. Or you can find like a video explaining it all. There's actually a decent amount of videos that explain the game's lore. They're all quite good. But I think that's kind of the point, right? You aren't really supposed to just like immediately understand everything that's going on. I think a lot of the fun of the game is just kind of exploring the world and just like making guesses about what you think happened in the past, what you think the ancients are like, all that sort of stuff. That kind of like speculation is a big part of the experience, I think. Also for the, like the community, you know. One thing that we always talk about on the stream is random parts of the lore that often is brought up. Just asking questions about the world. And the fact that we don't have answers for everything actually makes that possible. Also, I've not been able to read the chat. I've just been talking about this. It goes to Shoreline, but not Moon. Okay. Most of the base game's design tries to make everything feel diegetic, which means that it's like a part of the game world instead of like some UI elements or knowledge that the characters don't have. Because like the map, for example, this isn't like a map that just shows us everything. It's kind of a representation of the Slugcat's memories. The way that it like fills in slowly and it's kind of hazy, doesn't show every single detail. The UI is only like very simple things that like the Slugcat would know, like the amount of food that they have and how much time is left in the cycle. They might have some sort of intuition for that. I imagine that it makes sense for creatures to adapt to be able to like sense when the rain is coming. Since you can like, when it's about to rain, you see all the creatures panicking. And I guess it also makes sense that we were able to sense our own karma level. And that's the entire UI. That's like all we get. There's no health bars, there's no damage numbers, there's no like quest marker, you know, there's none of that. And that's something that Downpour isn't great at, because it sometimes shows you more information than you should know. Like the Gourmand food quest is just kind of like something that's there. That's like a game quest essentially. Like how does the Gourmand know exactly what food to look for in regions that you haven't even been to? Or the tutorials. Downpour adds a lot of tutorials to the game. And some people really like that the game didn't have tutorials before Downpour. And then it's very much like you had to figure it all out for yourself. But then Downpour is like, here's like a bunch of tips to like help you out, which is like, I guess it makes the game more accessible, which is a good thing, but also that experience of figuring things for yourself, it's kind of lessened. I find it funny that Moon sees these biological attachments to the pearl and immediately assumes that it was from Spearmaster. Like, there's no other possible reason. I guess you can still kind of see the like scar on my chest from where the pearl was removed. set up this spear. I don't really like that placement. I guess this is another little nice detail. She says, like communications array, but also the like chimney stacks. She could say like go to chimney canopy, or go past chimney canopy and go into Sky Islands, but instead she's like go to the towering chimney stacks and to the communication array. You know, instead of telling you directly where to go, it's just kind of giving you little hints. So I like that strat. Please don't get in the way. Thank you. She actually moved. I like putting a spear on the floor so that you can get kind of like stuck in the air and it takes a while to maneuver around. But if you have cursor on screen. Having the spear on the floor there can always like keep you in the right spot. Since that's also where she dropped the pearl. It's kind of annoying that she doesn't give it to you like Pebbles does. Oddly enough, something that Pebbles actually does better than Moon. He actually gives you the pearl back. Kind of funny how the decision for Pebbles to give the pearl back to Spearmaster inadvertently saved Moon in the future. Like he could have kept the pearl. It just like, I guess he really doesn't like what the pearl represents, so he wanted to get rid of it. I cannot see where I am. I really need to learn this room better. There's kind of like gaps in between those two sets of platforms. Please go into the pipe. Kind of annoying how grabbing the pearl or the pole there actually slows you down. Let's think for a sound cue. The sound that's like this like faint humming that like kind of revs up as the gravity turns on. The moment I hear that sound, that's the place right there. That's when I jump, because that's like the latest you can jump and still get affected by zero gravity. Right there. You have a little bit of time. It's not too strict on the timing. Actually, I might be able to grab or go into the pipe. Alright, I guess this works. That's cool. All the dust in the air fell with the gravity, although how did it get up into there in the first place? I should get an electric spirit from that. So whether I can actually clear a ladder here depends on how long it takes for the gravity to change. That actually worked out perfectly. I managed to jump at the perfect time for me to be able to maneuver in the air, or like maintain air control, because you can't move in the air while it's zero gravity, but you can while it's normal gravity for some reason. Just don't think about it too hard. And then the moment gravity turned off, I was going in the right direction. So remember to stay in the shelter here. I always forget, and I go to the gate, and it's like, you can't go to the gate. And then Sluggat somehow has to sleep in this shelter. I guess they don't sleep. They draw. Spearmaster is an artist. Oh, it was low gravity anyway, so I didn't need to do that. The spear thing still attached to your tail? I guess so. So remember to go back into this shelter to grab the grapple worm. I forgot that last time. Whenever I say last time, I actually have no idea what I'm referring to. I just remember that at some point, when I've been practicing this category, I've left the grapple worm behind. So don't do it again. Holes here. Yeah, I like that room. Any area like the wall always has room for optimization for like when you should drop down, when you should grab onto poles, when you can not take fall damage. Speedrunning? Yes, we are. This isn't a real attempt. This is a practice run, the thing that I like to do. I have a mod, or I have like actually various mods enabled, although I haven't really been using them. But the main mod is one that disables creatures. So creatures are not a thing in this run. Which I really like for practice because creatures add a huge element of RNG to the run. And without them, I can focus. I mean, obviously you need to practice with creatures eventually because you do have to deal with them when you do actual attempts. But for practice sake, I like getting rid of them so I can focus on movement. And then once I get really good at the movement in the run, I'm not as likely to make movement mistakes when I'm doing actual attempts, even if I have to deal with creatures at the same time. Because of course, if I just started off with attempts, I would be making. Oh, don't go that way. I forgot. No, in a normal attempt, I'll be making movement mistakes and having difficulties with the creature, and it would be significantly harder to ever get a good attempt going. And I would also, like, since I would die to the creatures quite often, I would have less time to focus on practicing the movement. But now without creatures, I can just focus on movement, get good at it, at least to a decent degree, so that for actual attempts, I won't make it many movement mistakes. It'll just be dealing with the creatures that will kind of determine the outcome of the run. Although, of course, I'm still going to make mistakes, just not as frequently as if I were to just start like doing normal attempts from the start. And I really recommend this for any speedrun that you want to practice. Actually, like any game, if anyone's interested in speedrunning, finding some way to practice and like focus on some specific part of the run. Of course, it depends on what kind of game it is. Not every, actually, most games aren't like Rain World. But like deliberate practice really helps out instead of just like doing attempts over and over again. Because then, like, of course, you're going to fail a lot at the start of the run, so you aren't going to have as many opportunities to practice the later parts of the run. How to eat that so fast? This is Spearmaster. They create spears that can be used to siphon energy from the creatures they hit. And it also works against popcorn plants, because popcorn plants usually give you like infinite food, but Spearmaster cannot eat food normally. You have to use these spears. So they give you 5 food instantly when you spear them. Those fruit up there on the ceiling, I can't actually eat those at all. And the spears don't work against them either, so those popcorn plants are like the main way that I get food in this run. This room is quite awful with creatures. There's usually spiders, dropwigs, lizards, all sorts of things. Only beat Rain World one time. Alright. Yep, this is underhang, using a grapple worm for movement. Well, it's not necessary. It is a lot faster. That's like, I mean, you can't get to this area without a grapple worm. Had like 50 times here. Yeah, you may notice the lack of deadly creatures. This area is quite difficult in the actual run. Spearmaster has some challenging spawns. I always go a little bit too far when entering this room. Down that other tunnel. Our objective right now is to head to Sky Islands. I don't know if you ever went to that region, since it's the optional area. You don't need to. Well, actually, most areas in this game are completely optional. For a survivor, at least. This is entering the area where you start needing to use the grapple worm, like, or you need to use the grapple worm for movement. It's not just for convenience. But it makes this part of the run quite difficult for this character, since you have to hold this pearl that I'm holding, the like yellow thing. That's a pearl. It's important for their story. So since you need to carry that pearl and use the grapple worm for movement, you can't hold any other item. Yeah, I mean, I could drop the pearl if I ever want to throw a spear, but when there's a creature chasing you, it's hard to find a safe place to drop the pearl off. Should probably go above this block, since I don't know if they'll give me enough height. It's not over yet. I might be able to grab onto the pole. Man, it's hard to get the grapple worm to grab onto that. Yeah, it just misses if I go too far out. That's unfortunate. And now we go all the way back. Actually, I probably should have kept that rock for throw boosting. That always happens. By the time I get something ready to throw boost with it, the gravity switches. But if I just get the rock, I would have been able to do it from the start. So this run is very interesting. Unlike a lot of speedruns. Well, it depends on the category. For some like longer speedruns, like 100%. Unfortunate developments, thank you. Like, of course, the longer speedruns are going to have more like saves. And you know you might die a few times, but Spearmaster is one of the few like main campaigns. So, like the way it works is that within base game there's Monk, Survivor, and Hunter. While Monk and Survivor are mainly the same, Hunter has a unique starting position and a unique goal, and then all of the downpour slugcats, characters added in the DLC, they all have their own unique story. Oh, went a little bit too far there. So for speedruns, we have this story percent category, which is basically completing all of the main objectives for a character's like storyline. So for Spearmaster here, that involves doing all the stuff to get this pearl, and eventually bringing it over to Sky Islands. And it's quite a long journey. A lot longer than other speedruns. For some reason, I can't grab onto these holes with the grapple worm. Go too far there. Like, well, Survivor doesn't really have a story percent category since it's mostly for the downpour slugcats, but they do have Pebbles percent, which is basically their story percent, where you go up to Pebbles, get max karma from that, and then go down to the depths. And that run is quite short, since you can actually do a trick to basically from outskirts, you stay in a shelter, and then you head all the way up to Pebbles in a single cycle. Then after talking to Pebbles, you exit out of the game, and the fact that you have max chroma, that is still saved, but your position isn't. So you are sent back to the last shelter that you saved at, which was in outskirts. Which means that you get to skip the trip all the way back from Pebbles to outskirts. Yeah, I should have grabbed onto that pole, I feel like. Maybe it doesn't work diagonally. Outskirts to Pebbles, yep. And then once you get back to outskirts, you can go through drainage system, into filtration system, into the depths. It's like only a few regions away till the very end of the game. So the entire route is basically going from outskirts to Pebbles, and then from outskirts to the end. That's the whole run. So then you do it in like just a bit, or around 30 minutes. I forget the exact time. Meanwhile, Spearmaster basically starts with that, where you go all the way up to Pebbles, but instead of going or warping back to outskirts, you have to go through Pebbles down to Underhang, from Underhang all the way over to the area that I started from. You notice casually teleporting across half the map, yep. Unfortunately, this character can't really take advantage of that since you have to carry these items with you, and they won't be brought back. So that area where I woke up from in that shelter after I died, you go all the way over there and do some stuff there, and then you head all the way back through that area that I just went through, which is called Precipice. Back through Underhang again, then to Chimney and then Skylands, which are actually quite short regions, so you travel significantly further, and an ideal run would take about an hour. But then Spearmaster also has a bunch of difficult creatures to deal with. Like harder variations of the creatures that Survivor encounters. I could stay in this shelter, for example, if I wanted to. I would have to spend more time getting food, which actually might not be a problem, so I'm at max food anyway. Anyway, for most characters, you try not to die at all, because death would, like, in that Pebbles percent run, if you die just before Pebbles on the wall, which is not uncommon, you get sent all the way back to outskirts and you lose like several minutes. So you might as well just restart the run at that point. But for Spearmaster, it's such a long trip overall. And there's so many dangerous creatures that like you're kind of expected to die a few times. So we kind of want to take more shelters than usual to account for the possibility of death. Just so that you don't lose as much time. A timed creatureless Spearmaster run? I think I've done creatureless runs before, and it was about just a bit above an hour. I don't know if it was like an hour and 2 minutes or an hour and 8 minutes, something along those lines, but I don't remember exactly what it was. The time right now is very inaccurate since I used mods to teleport myself up to Pebbles to start the run, so in reality, this would take I had like 20 minutes of this timer. I don't know how long it would take to get to Pebbles, but this is an unrealistic time. Of course, it's also unrealistic because there's no creatures. I think I would really enjoy this category if it didn't have as many difficult creatures. Maybe if there were just like 20% less creatures, you know? I think an adjustment like that would be kind of nice. Just for like most regions in the Spearmaster's campaign. Like some rooms are just absolutely filled with all the most dangerous creatures in the game. It just seems a little bit excessive. Oops, I don't want to drop a worm here. That's a total miss. I think I would enjoy this run without creatures, but that's not a official category. Currently in the speedrunning community, as long as 3 people do a run, it's considered official. So if 2 other people want to do creatureless runs, go ahead. You can make this run official, although I feel like as much as I enjoy doing speedruns without creatures, I think that it kind of takes away an important part of the game. Creatures are kind of what makes Randall special to a degree. They do contribute. Doing speedruns without creatures is like taking away a key mechanic, you know? Speeding the run, yep. Of course I can't reach that. That actually worked out a little bit, eventually. And of course, adding creatureless categories would add even more categories than there already are in the game. There's already like so many different variations. Like there's nine characters, if I'm counting correctly. 9 different categories, each with like an 8% story percent, like 100%, and then sometimes like categories for like doing specific things, like going to Moon or going to Pebbles. You know, there's so many categories. Adding like creatureless to like every single one of those categories, which is kind of like that's just too many. Are there seeds? I think there kind of are seeds, but that doesn't really work out. Creatures are predictable to a degree. Pretty much whenever you start a run, you know where creatures are going to spawn from. But the thing is, like, as the cycle goes on, they have more time to just kind of wander about to just random locations. So you know their starting location, but after that point, you have no idea where they could go. Which means that most of the time you're going completely blind. You know that, like, within these, like, set of, like, 5 rooms, like, you know what creatures to expect in those 5 rooms, you know? You just don't know which of those 5 rooms they're going to be in. They could be all clumped up in a single room. They could be spread out. They could not even be in any of those rooms at all, because, you know, you can never, like, truly predict. Sometimes they, like, fight each other, and some of them will be dead. Sometimes they, like, just might fall off a cliff. Yeah, I also stay in this shelter. It's quite annoying that there isn't a shelter on the other side of the gate. You'll get to see what this run looks like with creatures eventually. I might have karma requirements turned off. There's a remix setting for that. PB so far, this is not a realistic time. I started at Pebbles. I used warp tools to immediately get myself to Pebbles, so that's like quite a lot of time saved by cheating. So this is not what. And I also died, so not actually a good run. So the last reason that we want to have the grapple worm is to skip this room, essentially. It's quite fast to do this. Drop the grapple worm there. We don't no longer need him. Oh, okay. I haven't done real attempts. I did one attempt that was like sort of a practice run where I used some mods to help me out. And I think that was like an hour and like 40 minutes or something. I'm gonna throw a boost for this. Honestly, I've seen some of the runs that other runners have done, and I'm just kind of still surprised that I have some like world records. Because the like Spearmaster runs, like any Spearmaster speedrun, any Hunter speedrun is like the most impressive thing. How do you guys actually do that? This is without creatures, yes. I went too far. You don't want to go this way. I don't know where I'm going. I guess I can climb up this. Good thing I threw the rock and not the spear. After this, well, I mean, I'm gonna get there like in a few rooms, but after this, I'm going to do some real attempts. Turn off all the mods, all the like the remix settings and stuff. Just see if I can get a good run going. I may not even be able to complete a run since they might take like several hours. We'll see. Hopefully it'll be decent. And that's assuming that I actually. I mean, obviously we can always continue running even if we die, but there are times when you just don't have enough karma to continue. So, goodness, good thing there's a pipe or a pole there. Probably just take the safe route of like going around like that. So there we go. Wow, under an hour. Yeah, right. Karma. So it's those are like the symbols that we see. This symbol right here. It goes up when you die. Goes up or it goes down. It goes down when you die. It goes up when you successfully shelter. And you need high karma in order to get past some gates. So if you die too much to run, or just any time, of course, if you die too much, you won't be able to get past some gates. And at that point, you just lose so much time from like trying to like sleep again that you might as well just restart the run. So those are I think I may have to close the game for the mods to refresh. Karma was being nice to creatures. I mean, that's also a thing. There's like a reputation system. It's what we usually call it. If you are nice to creatures, they will be nicer to you. Although, you know, it depends on the creature. It's more important for some creatures than others. Like scavengers and lizards have a quite complicated reputation system. But then like vultures, for example, vultures are pretty much always going to try to kill you, no matter what you do. Game should be open now. Hope you all enjoyed the black screen. Every time that happens, I'm like, I should put something up in that screen so that it's not just completely black, but then I forget. So I think I had some settings. Yeah, those should not be on for a run. Okay, scavengers. You can eventually get to the point where scavengers are not. Do I have splits? If I have splits for this, I will open them up. Although I don't know if I've created splits. I have not. I guess I don't need them. I've kind of started to like stop using splits for speedruns. It might should be like especially kind of annoying. Oh shoot. Roll display. Move that down there because you have to move that every single time you open the game. Now we're actually starting the run. Or starting at the start of the run instead of at pebbles. Whoops, that's unfortunate. Hello? I'm not calling up that. So it's actually easier just to throw boost from these instead of using the spear to climb up the wall. So the first few minutes of this run are pretty mundane. Basically just going through like that quick room and then a few simple rooms here and then Survivor's tutorial. I didn't even know you could reach that block up there. Spearmaster's lore. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the story of this game overall. So 5 Pebbles, I assume that you're familiar with, is a big supercomputer called an iterator. There are many different iterators across the world. One of them is 7 Red Suns, because they all have to have funny names. And they create Spearmaster with like genetic engineering. I assume like with some Slicat as a base, you're using like Slicat DNA or whatever. They create Spearmaster, hence like being able to create spears as a messenger. So Spearmaster carries a pearl in their stomach. And you bring that to Pebbles. This is in the past, by the way, way before Spearmaster. The thing that Downpour does is that all the characters take place at a different time in the timeline. So Spearmaster is the earliest one. You basically bring this pearl up to Pebbles, and it says some stuff. We'll get to that. I guess you'll get to see if I actually get there in the run. Here's a reason why it's difficult. That is a red lizard. They are very dangerous. I'm actually not going to grab this Karma Flower because I'm going to Karma Cache soon, which gets rid of Karma Flowers, so... Yeah, I'm trying to keep it simple. I don't want to explain, like, everything about Rain World. That's unfortunate. Oh, of course, now I get the head spear. But with the wrong spear. Okay. I'll need to hit 2 creatures for food. Yeah, Spearmaster is a messenger to bring pearls between the iterators because the communication arrays have been deteriorating. So Slowcats are their only method of communication. And I believe that Spearmaster has already brought up a pearl to Pebbles. And this is the second pearl. Although maybe he's sent more in the past. Genetically engineered postman. So how much karma do I actually need here? I actually don't know. Because I need 4 karma to get into the wall, but I might want to stay in the shoulder before the wall. So I guess I'd only need 3 karma, right? I'll stay in the shelter and chimney. That's my plan. How long does it take to learn movement tech? I currently have about 1,000 hours in the game. And I'd say that at about like 300 hours, I started learning some like... I started looking into learning the movement tech. So to get to the level of proficiency, many hundreds of hours. Although, if you want to, like, if there's some mechanic that you're interested in, it'll only take like a few hours, like days of practice to get consistent at it. Although some tricks are quite difficult. I'm going to do one right here. I kind of messed up the timing, but that's called an extended instant hop. It's when you start an extended slide, which is another mechanic I should probably show. You can basically start a slide and throw backwards, and it will give you a big, like a really long slide. It goes quite fast. If you jump on the second frame after throwing backwards, and then right after jumping you hold forwards, you will do an extended instant hop. And it basically maintains all the momentum of the extended slide into the air, so you don't get slowed down by friction. And since you have to jump specifically 2 frames after throwing backwards, the thing that I just did was actually threw it 1 frame after, which is actually worse. Because it sends you more vertically instead of horizontally. I'm actually going to waste a little bit of time to show it off. That is an extended slide. This is an EI hop. I actually did those both correctly. Okay, that's just an egg bug, not a lizard. Oh yeah, there's a whole area behind the Spearmaster start. It's quite interesting. Okay, I don't like this. I want to create another spear here for this lizard. Okay, well, let's keep going. Since I don't really care about food right now, I'll just pick up regular spears that I find. Okay, good thing that lizard was facing in the right direction for me. Stab him. Although there are going to be many more lizards. This one seems quite irritated. I don't like that it's going in that direction. Please come over here. Thank you. Of course, there's another lizard. Okay. I don't like this tunnel because the lizard can show up on the other side and just kill you. You can't do anything about it. Why it has to be 2 frames? So if you actually jump 1 frame after... If you start a slide and jump immediately the frame after the start of the slide, you do an instant slide pounce. Because normally you can slide and then after some period of time, you could do a pounce. See if I can do it here. Although there's not much space. Yes, that's a slide pounce, right? But if you instead jump 1 frame after starting the slide, it's an instant slide pounce. Which is not possible. Although it is actually possible in the depths where time is slowed down, or if you eat a mushroom, then you could do like 2 jumps like within 1 frame of each other, and you'll get that instant slide pounce. It's basically the same thing happening when you do a extended slide. On the first frame after the extended slide, you'll do a pounce instead of just a regular jump, which is actually not ideal. His pounces are more like vertical. Oh goodness. I kind of want to see if I can snipe this guy's mask. I didn't want to throw that. No, don't run away. Yeah, I'm gonna just like throw all of my spears into walls. No, I wanted to hit him in the head. There we go. There's our mask. That was actually quite easy compared to how it usually goes, especially since it was a king vulture. Now we have a mask, so the rest of chimney canopy will be significantly easier. So yeah, if you do a jump immediately, it's an instant slide pounce, which does not go as fast, but it goes more vertically. So sometimes you actually want to do the frame 1 jump. But then like a frame after that, it's just a regular jump, so you keep all the momentum from the slide. And then any frame, like every frame after that, you just, you don't jump as far. So usually like, I think that might have been like 1 frame too late compared to what it could be at, like ideally. I don't know, usually you can tell like based on how slow you are. After the jump, you can tell how like close you were to the frame perfect input. But anyway, the reason I brought up extended instant hops is because they are one of those movement tech that is extremely hard to learn because it's frame perfect. So it takes like, I'm not even like 100% consistent at them yet, and I've been using them in pretty much like every single speedrun. Can you please don't? So after like hundreds of hours, I'm still not consistent at extended instant hops. So that's the kind of movement that can take a long time to learn. Excuse me. Okay, that was not good. I like how that lizard decided to run past me instead of running away, but honestly that was actually, that helps out a lot. Of course, you don't need to do extended instant hops for speedruns. Simple movement like slide pounces, rolls, roll pounces, fast full climbing especially is really useful. That's the kind of movement that you want to focus on learning. That was actually not an ideal jump, but it still worked out. How does slide spears work? So I don't know why I kept going up the pole. It's actually easier to jump across the other side. See if we can do one here. Nice. So when you do a slide and you throw a spear, you actually throw the spear slightly downwards. And that's actually the only requirement. As long as the spear is moving down, when it hits a lizard's head, it will go past and like actually deal damage to them. Which means that you can actually do a different method. Why are you here? This is why extended slides are useful. I might as well take this. Oh my goodness, I didn't think they'd be following me still. Okay. But you can do this thing where you crouch. Of course, there's a lag spike. You crouch and then you throw a spear halfway through the crouch. And it also sends the spear moving downwards, and that can also work to hit lizards in their head. So either the slide throw or the just the crouch throw, either of those can work for hitting lizards. Average Tuesday. Ah. What I just did was a whiplash where you, instead of doing a slide bounce forward, you do it backwards. And that can happen if I jump before throwing the item for an extended instant hop. The RGB Spearmaster. You know, I don't really like customization. Just kind of in general. It's like, I don't mind the way that the slugheads look by default, so I don't really bother changing them at all. Backflip spears, I think that's a different case because the orientation of the spear is different. So it'll still like clank with their head. So if oh, what is this? There's a drop would be like right there. The multicolored spears. Actually, that was a bad idea. I think the drop will be aggressive now. Oh no, he's distracted. This room is a big reason why I like to. Oh, we tried to set up right in front of me again. That drop wig. This room is a good reason why I like to get the vulture mask, because there's so many lizards in this room. It's a pain to navigate normally. You actually just have to basically fight all the lizards. You can't, they're so fast and you move so slowly through this little area right here. You basically just have to fight all the lizards to get past them. I cannot do this jump. Excuse me. Okay, maybe I should just use another spear. I'm already holding one. Okay. Alright, so like not the greatest movement. But honestly, this run has been going totally fine. The creatures have not really been that big. Oh, okay. It's distracted. Spearmaster, I mean, like, this area is already difficult to get past as the hunter with the silent lizards, but this area is even worse as Spearmaster because there's also king vultures. Excuse me. No, not this way. Oh no, it's Locate. Let me run directly into him. Actually, I guess they would assume that I'm a vulture. Unfortunately, we will not be able to hold on to this vulture mask for the rest of the run. This is pretty much the last point where it's useful. I'm going to hold on to it because there's like 2 more lizards I can encounter. And the main threat now is scavengers. There could be scavengers in this room, which I was lucky that there weren't any here. But there are also scavengers in a few rooms from now, which is actually probably one of the more dangerous parts of the run. This pace seems pretty good. I was pretty slow going up the wall. And also, I probably could have gotten a Vulture Mask a little bit faster, but I think it still saved time to get the Vulture Mask. I didn't have to deal with those lizards. So just like better movement, getting up the wall would have helped, but this is still like going all right. There's the scavengers down there. For some reason, these wall jumps are not easy. Something a little bit annoying about this game, the wall jumps are like quite difficult for some reason, even though it's like a very basic movement mechanic. That can happen. Be careful about that. Despite the fact that this lizard is scared of me, it somehow managed to be in my way the entire time. That overseer may have been pointing towards danger. Just a scavenger up here. No? What is it pointing at? Hello, welcome to the stream. So make sure that you have a spear in hand before entering this room. There they are. I just run past this one. Nice. Let's see any other scavengers. There's one right there. Past the screen. I have no idea if these are working. Oh, that worked. Yeah, one of the main differences of the Slugcats earlier in the time is that you have to deal with scavengers up here. Oh, great. So he really didn't see me when I was crouching down there. That's funny. Stealth mode activated. Okay, so that's going to be the last of the scavengers for now. Not great. Sometimes you get lucky and scavengers just don't show up at all. Not that time, but we still got past it decently quickly. Even if there aren't scavengers, you have to slow down to check to make sure that you aren't running directly into them when you're not prepared. Also, this mask is no longer useful. I don't actually need food at all. I'm going to continue on. I might lose the run here. There's a possibility I mess up this trick coming up. Pebbles will... So basically what's going to happen is I have a pearl inside of me, so Pebbles is going to take that pearl out, which injures me for a bit. It's not exactly great to have something removed from your inside of your body. Then he's going to drop the pearl and push me out of the room. Now the thing is that, well, two things. One, I need to go through a different exit than the one that he pushes you out of. Why did I go up? And two, I need to pick the pearl up. So... I don't think there are many new players watching speedruns. So what we need to do here... Hold up, I can't read chat for a bit. I need to focus on this. So He's in a good spot, actually. Grab the pearl, line up right here. And we're good. If you wait just a little bit too long there, he will throw you out the other exit. The jump to the spear. Okay, so that's a thing. You basically crouch and turn around on the ground while crouching, and you'll basically like flip over to crouch on the other direction. And like halfway through that turn, you do a jump. And specifically a backflip, because there's this thing called backflip storage. Doing without, you can't do the back, or you can do it without the backflip, and it will still give you more height than a regular jump. But what you basically do is walk in a direction for a bit, turn around, and then crouch. And that turn around will basically be stored. It's called turn storage. So basically, instead of jumping to do a backflip, you crouch to store that turn. And then you do the crouch turn. Halfway through the crouch turn, you jump to use that backflip. It's that easy to do it all. It's easy once you know exactly how to do it. It's a little bit hard to explain. I can't really show it off now because I'm loading. Oh, that's a inspector. That's actually dangerous. If I stabbed a neuron, the inspector may have gotten mad at me. I don't even know if they have any like weapons to attack me with. Okay, that's still fine. We're going. I guess inspectors do count as creatures, right? So they would have been removed in my previous attempts. About there. Rocks deal the same damage as spears. That's actually really good to know because they can pick up spears and throw them back at you. But I suppose if it's rocks, then it's not as dangerous. So it's actually easier to deal with them with rocks. If that's true, I haven't checked myself. Ever heard of jump storage? Yes. Jump storage is basically utilizing this mechanic that lets you vary your jump height. This is basically this variable called jump boost. And I'm not exactly sure how it works, but basically when you jump, as long as you're holding down the jump button, jump boost is used up to give you extra vertical speed. So that way, if you only just barely tap the jump button, you won't use any jump boost at all, and you'll do a short jump. But if you hold it down for a long time, then you'll use up all of your jump boost to do a high jump. But there's some things that you can do to store your jump boost in situations where you wouldn't be able to use it normally, which can lead to some crazy jumps where you go insanely high. Unfortunately, they're all like really complicated, and I have no idea how to do any of them. So it's not really an important mechanic to know at all. The only thing that I know that you can do with jump boost that I've actually done myself is with rivulets. Basically, this is a method where you can get jump boost by crouching, and then halfway through the crouch, you jump. And it basically stores the jump boost from that jump while you're in the crouching state. And rivulets can do a slide, where you immediately stand up and then do a slide. And most characters can't do that. They can't start a slide as quickly as Rivulet can. But Rivulet is very fast, so it's pretty easy for them to do. And what you get from doing that is you get to keep the jump boost because you did the slide immediately, and the slide will go a lot higher than normal, or the slide pounce afterwards. If you don't jump after the slide, it won't do anything. And that's all. That's all I know how to do with jump boosts. Oh, there's another thing called like a crawl turn vault or something, and I have no idea how to do it. Actually, I've done it before with a macro, But I cannot execute it without a macro at all because it requires you to press jump very quickly. It requires you to like press a bunch of buttons within like frame perfect timing. I am not good at it, but some people do it. And if you use jump boost, it will go a lot higher. There's a lot of movement tech in this game that I don't use because it's not useful. Although some players are big fans of crawl turn vaults, if that's even the correct name for them. Pro or against violence against scavengers? I'd rather... Okay. Funny thing is that before Downpour, I very rarely fought scavengers. Except in like arena mode, maybe. But of course, with Artificer, you're kind of forced to fight scavengers, and... I mean, even as Spearmaster, you start with a really low scavenger reputation, but I'd try to befriend the scavengers. But it's just faster for the speedrun to fight them anyway. But overall, scavengers are designed to be a creature that you don't want to fight. To kind of teach you the reputation system, right? I did not get any speed from that at all. They're basically a lesson to say like, hey, some creatures can be befriended and are actually like helpful to the player instead of just exclusively dangerous. And fighting scavengers is the punishment for not befriending the scavengers, which is why they're so unfair to fight. I don't know why like multiple campaigns in Downpour are designed with fighting scavengers in mind. You start Revealit's campaign after like directly after killing a scavenger. That's how the campaign starts. Spearmaster has really low reputation, Hunter has low reputation, and then Artificer, of course, you always have to fight scavengers. I think it's a little ridiculous. Because, of course, it's unfair to fight them. They can kill you from a long distance. They can kill you from off-screen. There are a lot of them. Sometimes they don't die in one hit. And while they are injured, they can still kill you. They can also aim spears diagonally, especially the elite ones. What is up with the Rivulet intro? I'd love to if they ever decide to add more content to Downpour, I would love if we got a little look into what Rivulet did before their campaign. Because we assume that Rivulet just did all sorts of things. Because they already have the mark of communication from some iterator. Plus Spearmaster, I'd love to play the journey back to 7 Red Suns. Especially since you wouldn't have to carry the Pearl. You just get to explore a bunch of new regions and a new iterator. Yeah. I think those are good opportunities for like future updates to Downpour. So usually I don't like fighting scavengers. I think they're fun to befriend, even if they can be kind of annoying sometimes. Maybe it's not so much as like befriending scavengers is fun, but like fighting scavengers isn't fun. They make the Rivulet speedrun particularly difficult. Okay, I can show this off now. Walk, turn, crouch, turn, jump. I messed up. Okay, I messed it up again. But if you do a backflip, that's doing it correctly. Come on, you can look at the input display to see how I did that. Here's the creatures. Luckily it's just a blue. Stun, unfair death, and rage quit. Yep. Yeah, also the pearl. So like Rivulet has a reason to go to Pebbles. Or maybe that pearl is just there by coincidence. Okay, I hit the spider, but luckily that distracted the Scion. They are no longer distracted. There's a drop hook in there. That is a dropwing right there. Okay. You can see how many dangerous creatures there are in that little short segment. There's a spider, white lizard, land lizard, and a dropwing in like 2 rooms. Time loss. Should I shelter here? I'm gonna shelter here. The shelter a little bit further into precipice, but there's a little bit of a detour and a dropwing guarding the shelter for some reason. I'd rather not deal with that dropwing. But that's a funny thing about Ren World. It's a very fair game, as in the Slugcat can easily kill other creatures, and other creatures can easily kill the Slugcat. So it's very fair. It just feels unfair because most video games are designed to give the player an advantage. That usually makes the game more fun. To be able to... I mean, unless you're playing like Dark Souls. But usually you can fight against like massive swarms of enemies and like pretty easily actually. Or fight against bosses that are like massive and have like 100 times more health than you. But you can still defeat them because you have a ton of advantages. Because they telegraph their attacks and you can dodge them, but your attacks are instantaneous. And player attacks are usually like hit scan or like instantaneous, while enemies have like predictable attack patterns that you can dodge. But in Rain World, none of that is the case. Are there scavengers? I don't see any scavengers. That's nice. No one has an advantage in Rain World. Creatures can kill you in 1 bite. You can kill them in a few spears. Do I eat? No. I don't eat that. I eat that later. I'll eat the popcorn plant at the end of Precipice. Or maybe I'll just get enough food from like fighting stuff. Okay, I'm not going to read chat. I want to look out for dropwings and other dangerous creatures. Like that guy right there. That's a lizard. That's 2 lizards. Okay, I thought I could get past them maybe. Oh, okay. Just have a little bit of patience. I think this game is interesting. When you are not very... Oh my gosh, I got so lucky there. Can I get enough height? I actually grabbed onto the pole for a second and I just fell. Okay, 1 death. But if you are not familiar with the game's combat, which most players won't be, at least like casual players and like when they're first playing Survivor, you aren't going to be good at the combat. Which means that it puts you in a very interesting position where you're trying to avoid creatures. You feel like prey, and you're trying to avoid all the predators. And I think that makes Rain World an incredibly immersive experience, because you actually feel like you're like this creature at the bottom of the food chain trying to get by, you know? That's one of Rain World's biggest strengths. I mean, there are like horror games that purposely make you feel underpowered, of course, but I don't think there's many that put you in like a realistic-ish like ecosystem. That's not quite a common thing in games. Because like survival games, for example, actual survival games, like I don't know, you're like stranded on an island and you have to like get by like collecting like trees and like hunting for food and stuff. those games eventually make you feel overpowered because you can eventually like build structures and like upgrade your tools and whatever. You can always like make use of the environment to make yourself stronger. In Rain Worlds, that never happens. You never outsmart the environment. Well, I guess you kind of outsmart the environment, but you never take advantage of the environment. That is always consistent. You are always just an animal. And you can like, you know, improve your combat, improve your movement, all sorts of things. I don't like that guy. But you can never upgrade yourself, you can never build structures. This is going still pretty bad because there's a King Vulture. As long as he doesn't come here very quickly. Okay. It's also something that kind of makes the game change as you get better at it. So I don't really play the game like that anymore. I play the game like a speedrunner. So I guess that aspect kind of goes away with familiarity. That's to be expected in any game, really. I don't like you. Oh gosh, I need to get up there. Okay, that time I actually managed to grab onto the pipe or the pole for some reason. I mean, yeah, like learning movement helps, but it's not the same as like building roads or like railroad tracks. Like make transportation significantly easier. Okay, that was a really good spear throw. I died from that. Okay, drop hook is in a good spot. I don't like seeing that lizard. I almost swung all the way back over to the drop hook. I hate when that happens. When you're about to throw a spear and then they grab it out of your hands. I'm pretty sure that lizard was like the last dangerous thing in that area too. Because I'd already dealt with the white lizard and the drop wig was out of the way. I guess the best thing I should have done is just left the room. Leave the room, come back. That's probably the strategy I should use for most creatures. Although it's not great against vultures. Oh, goodness. I already used up all my luck with not encountering the scavengers, and here they are. Sorry. Yeah, take this. Take the scavenger. That's the kind of movement I want to go for. Hello? Yeah, you know what? We don't need to do that. I mean, you don't even need to swing up there anyway. You can just go down here. I don't see any lizards in here. Yeah, scavengers are actually at a high enough reputation where they'll accept pearls. Goodbye, tongue. It's actually quite annoying. Yeah, that actually made that harder. I mean, I still made mistakes there, but I think that was another King Vulture. And that jump requires some... I don't know why there's always a King Vulture right there in the worst possible spot. Because anywhere else you can usually move fast enough to get past them, but... with a king vulture. In that spot specifically, you have to like line up a charge pounce. And if you miss the jump, you have to put quite a bit of effort into climbing back around the platform. So this is the average Spearmaster run. But we see scavengers again. I was just about to say, oh, no lizard here. Luckily, he did not move from that position. Yeah, okay, so usually there's always an option. There's always options for you to get past, like, pretty much any situation. Not always. I think that Mira's vultures are a good example, because sometimes they show up with no telegraph and they immediately kill you within, like, a second. And you just, like, cannot possibly react to that. I did not want her to see that. Oh, okay. But yeah, most of the time, there's always something that you can do. Usually it requires patience, which is why it's annoying for speedruns. You don't want to be waiting around. Oh, where'd the pearl go? Okay, right there. I thought it might have fallen. There's like surprisingly few creatures right now. Oh, I almost died. I might have been this might be adaptive difficulty. If you die too many times in an area, eventually they will just make it easier. I don't know if that's what I'm experiencing right now. Like less creatures showing up because I died so much. Maybe that's a strat for speedruns, like purposely die like 10 times. The sign doesn't still see me. Like find the right shelter, like die like 10 times on purpose. I mean, that's maybe excessive, but a few times and then well, X karma would be a problem. Also, I just realized I forgot to get a karma flower at the very beginning of the run. That's suddenly relevant now. Actually, I don't have enough karma to continue, so I can swap the karma cache. This lizard is getting in the way. Do dying tech. Yeah, it would be maybe possible without I don't want to do any of that. You stop camping up there? Oh great. It's like, oh, where'd you go? Oh, they saw me still. It's quite annoying to make that jump. I assume that you're supposed to use a spear to get past that, but it would probably take too long to set that up. The amount of regions that you went through without dying. So I assume that it's a big problem for long speedruns like this, right? You go through many regions without dying. So the difficulty kind of like builds up. I really don't like this guy. Uh oh. Really? Oh, buy grapple worm. I actually need them. Yeah, they've gone all the way back up to the bad spot. That's a nice wall pounce there. This is very slow, and I'm just gonna have to fight them again. Okay, that worked out better. I want to finish this run, even if I died like 20 more times. It'll still probably be like a decent run. Not really. I mean, I know that there's been runs that have This kind of is a weird scenario, isn't it? I can't starve because I have too much food. Okay, I will get one more food, and I can't kill the grapple worm. That's annoying. I hope there's a drop egg right there. Nope. Okay, there they are. And that's it. That's all we needed. And all we can get anyway. I should have brought the grapple worm with me. They might have just made things more difficult. I don't know. Then we need to karma cash just once. Had I remembered a karma flower, this may have been a lot easier because I could have just kept grabbing or getting the karma flower back to keep my karma up. Everyone can't leave the shelter. I don't know if it's able to, but once I leave this room, it's not going to leave anyway since it'll stop being simulated. Yeah, just leave it behind. So we lost like a decent amount of time. Let's just keep going anyway. Honestly, Precipice would not have been nearly as bad without that one jump. Honestly, I would like to figure out a better way to do that. Because I messed up the jump a few times, and also there were sometimes vultures that made it a lot more difficult. Great, low gravity. I mean, I guess that actually helps, but... Yeah, I'd like a way to really quickly get past that one jump, so that even if there's a vulture like right there, they won't be a problem. It's a bad gravity cycle. I'm just going to have to wait here for a bit. Oh, that might have been too fast. Precipice the hardest part to run? Maybe. I'd say it's just a little bit more difficult than underhang. That was actually quite risky. I think that... Ooh, going up a little bit. I think earlier parts of the run may be more difficult if you don't have a vulture mask. The top of the wall where there may be scavengers is quite annoying. Is this still a practice run? This is a real attempt. Although I've died so many times, I'm going to do another attempt even if I perfectly get through the rest of it. I may not make this. I'll make it. Can't do a roll from that. Gravity too low. I mean, I don't know what my goal is. I'll keep doing attempts until I'm just happy with the final time, so who knows how many deaths there may be in that kind of run. But I died like 3 times? 3 or 4 times. So if I never died for the rest of the run, maybe it'll still be good. I don't know. I just keep falling down here. I'm waiting for gravity to change anyway, but we can make a little bit of progress. All the neurons start flying around when gravity switches. So you have to jump up there and then get stuck anyway. This room is not that great. I didn't actually want to grab onto that. Suppose it still works out. Isn't it kind of strange that Precipice is supposed to be the bridge between Pebbles and Moon for transporting the Ancients? Uh oh. Okay. Can still make that. Yeah, we still have to travel through quite a lot of the interior of these iterators to actually get to like the city or just to the iterator themselves, the puppet. What do you miss? I died a few times in Precipice. I don't know how many of those you saw. Now we're at Moon. Not just to want to move between neighboring cities. Yeah, I mean, that's what the Precipice is for, but you would think that they would, once you like cross the bridge, you would just be at the city instead of having to also go through the iterator. And maybe there were like parts of Precipice that have collapsed that would have brought you up to that point. Yeah, cutscene time. Now we just wait for like 3 minutes. Yeah, this looks to the moon. Also, hello, the real Spearmaster. I have no idea how they got access to the stream while they're currently inside of Moon, but real. It's only traversable between cycles. Like, depending on how long a cycle is, that might be like a lot of time for the ancients to wait between like, traveling. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just assumed that, you know, Precipice would connect the cities and not like the interior of the iterators. Sophisticated ancient technology. Alright, alright. So now we do the pearl up. Maybe it's like a save time to throw the pearl up. Like if you throw the pearl up at the right time, because it actually took a while for it to get to her. .1 seconds saved. Eventually the world record will be determined by who throws the pearl up fastest. I can't ever imagine Rain World speedruns getting that optimized. Except for like any percent categories. Which is basically what happened for base game. Someday Moon is actually going to block my path back up. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Nope, don't throw backwards again. Have I ran any percent? I've run Rivulets any percent. I've not done any other. I mean, technically, there's always an 80% run at the end of a Pels percent run, right? But I've not run any percent on its own. I've kind of considered it though. Like, it wouldn't be that hard just to like do a few attempts here and there since it's such a short run anyway. And there's not much creature RNG. Although I'd have to decide like what kind of Guardian skip to do. I could play on earlier versions of the game where you can do that Guardian skip where you basically just unload them. Or I would have to grab a Hazer at some point. But like the Hazer skip is like kind of takes a while. I'm not sure how different the 1.9 and 1.5 runs are for any percent, other than the Guardian skip. So I know like spawns work slightly differently, and like maybe the way that like regions are loaded in. Those are only like very small details. I guess I wouldn't be able to wall pounce, but how useful is that anyway? For Survivor. I mean, we've already figured out how useful it is for Vivilet. Maybe maybe it'd actually be worth it to go up top. There might be like a tunnel I can go up there. This movement is so unoptimized. I've also run Gourmand at 80%. It's actually a kind of fun category. Although I have not submitted to run. You all will say it eventually, though. Oh, I lost the roll. Whoops. Okay, let's not get stuck in the middle of this room. I feel like any percent runs can get kind of mundane. Because like no matter what character you are, you're eventually going to have the pretty much exactly the same ending. Going through the depths. Going through filtration system, you know. Unlike the story percent runs, they're not going to be that unique between each other. You know, sometimes they're unique. Like Rivulet, for example, starts like right next to filtration systems, so it's like a pretty fast run. Gourmand can make a singularity bomb for the Guardians, which is like quite unique, as well as a bunch of Gourmand stuff you can do. Gourmand stomp all creatures percent. How do you get like a Leviathan? Whoops, wrong way. So any percent runs end when you enter the Void Sea. So you know how there's that last room in the depths where you enter the Void Sea and you zoom out down a bit and then the camera eventually starts scrolling? The moment the camera starts scrolling to follow you, that's when the timer ends. That we don't have to go through the swim because the void worms in the Void Sea, they push you around, right? And it's actually random. It's completely random how the void worms push you around. So we decided to skip, well, we as in the speedrunning community. And then of course I don't even make the jump. It's probably worth it just to go down here anyway. Or just wait for gravity. Basically, the speedrun community decided that it'd be kind of stupid to lose like 20 seconds at the end of a run because of like worm RNG. So the timer just ends before the void worms start to mess around with your movement. Sub 125. Probably not this run because I still have a chance of dying in underhang. Luckily, this gate doesn't have a karma requirement. I wish there was a karma flower anywhere else in this route other than the very beginning. Because I forgot to get the karma flower, and now I had to pay the price earlier. Probably faster just to walk normal. Oh, you. I'm going to drop an extra spirit here just in case. Okay, didn't need it. So I don't know how often I've gone down precipice with creatures. I think it was just like one other time. So who knows if I'm gonna die here a lot. Okay, that works out eventually. The drop hook in here. I mean, even if there was on the ceiling, I don't think I'd be able to see it on the map. Yeah, you can't grab the poles like that when you do it diagonally. That's strange. Yeah, I guess I might as well just not even attempt doing that. It is worth it to do it up here. Maybe. Definitely worth it in this room. That was actually very dangerous. I almost missed that last grapple. Okay, there we go. Is there a white lizard in here? Nope. It's a little too quiet, isn't it? What a save. What, are we playing Rocket League? I'm going to take this popcorn plant. I'm going to have to shelter, I think, like the next shelter I see. Plus, right before Sky Islands. Although that's not actually necessary. Well, maybe it will be. It does take quite a while to get there from underhand. Alright, so it's already an hour and 6 minutes, which I'm pretty sure is close to the world record. But I mean, most of the time was lost because I died so many times. But I think about like 125 sounds about like the time I would get if I just continued to the end without too many major mistakes. Alright, this is where we encounter like 5 different creatures. There's one of them. I've never seen that happen. He was carrying a fruit, right? That's usually their, like, here's a fruit that I'm going to bring to me to my, like, to the spot that I'm going to drop from, right? That's what they do. Nope, they attacked immediately. Okay. Didn't try that time. Should get better at this room. I was just kind of hoping that the lizard was too worried about the spider. Is there a lizard here? Not yet. There they are. I know that there would be a lizard somewhere around there. Either a white or a cyan. There's another one. Luckily, I'm not going that way. I did it again. The pipe is just so short, you're just holding forward and then suddenly you're going down the wrong pipe. Or the wrong tunnel. Is there something in here? Nope. Oh, it's turn count. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to specifically. But that's an interesting idea where you're not necessarily focusing on just speed, but also like efficiency. I guess that's kind of a thing in Randall too, right? Like least cycles challenge. Well, that's usually what speedruns end up being anyway. Not spending as many cycles ends up being faster, of course, because you don't have to spend time getting shelters. But maybe in like an 100% run, you know, you actually do need to hit quite a lot of shelters for like passage progress. So you could try to be like super efficient by like trying to like always make passage progress in every single shelter that you take. Although that might be what 100% runs already do. Maybe just like not karma cache. Although you would still have to get like survivor in the first place, so you know maybe I just want to do that. Interesting. Just hoping that I won't just land on a lizard. So I may. Okay, that actually jump scared me. We may run into lizards here. We may run into scavengers here. And we're saying you only use a single shelter. 2 droplets. That's exactly what I wanted. Are you attack mode? No. Could have been dangerous. Oh yeah, karma catching doesn't actually count because you're like always resetting. Hopefully the other drop decided to move on, and there's no scavengers here, so that was actually pretty good. Might get here a little bit faster and finish the run a little bit faster as long as I don't die on the way to communications array. Just hope that there aren't any king vultures. Do I also risk? Yeah, I think I do. Just don't die or drop the pearl. I did this in another attempt. I'd actually just drop the pearl down a pit. Well, slime balls are like physical objects. They can like pick up and move around, right? What if that's actually any faster? There's already a lot of stuff going on in the game. It probably doesn't need more layers of like simulations. It's already quite rough with like simulating the entire like ecosystem at the same time. Please don't. Okay. If that guy showed up like 30 seconds earlier. Or that guy. Like technically like all this like grass and stuff could be moving around. Like there's already like so many physics simulations going on. One shot it through the walls. I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds kind of interesting. World record pace? Nope. I think world record is an hour and 8 minutes or faster. Because, I mean, the leaderboards aren't very updated. Doing a smart way doesn't affect performance than you do with the GPU, like shaders. We no longer need you. Yeah, keep going in that direction, Lizard. I'm too scared. We're not taking any risks. I never take risks. What am I saying? Yeah, I don't like that position. Yeah, think about that noodle fly that you want to eat. Okay, he turned around so fast. And I somehow threw in the wrong direction. That's fine, that's why I took the shelter. That's just a bit unfortunate though. Pink lizards have like the fastest bite. Other than like red lizards, of course. But you can... If you try to just jump over a pink lizard, they are very good at grabbing you out of the air. Yeah, no, never take risks. Not at all. Not exactly what you just saw right there. Although I didn't think it felt like a risk. Decor pretty big. I think that's how Rainworld works, right? Like you can look in the game's files and find like a bunch of images of just the rooms. Oh, I wish he'd stayed up here. Yeah, actually I can just do this. Yep, I'm here. Go into the pipe. Thank you. I hear scavenger. Are they friendly? No. It's just gonna pop out of the pipe immediately. Oh, they're over there. I don't really like them being in this room, especially since there's two scavengers. Just one I think would be fine, like popping up and stabbing them, but... Make sure that I'm not dropping down onto something. I'll probably run into a white lizard or two. These next like 2 rooms. And of course a king vulture, it's very likely. Okay, the white lizard is down there, that's nice. This could be sub 120, I'd like that. Don't see a lizard. So there's a lizard right next to that pipe. Yeah, I gotta get through these rooms as fast as possible. Kind of wonder how like vulture detection works. Like, how long does it take for a vulture to see that you're there, and like do they have to have line of sight with you? Can they see you easier if you're like moving around, or is it harder to see if you're crouching? This room is still dangerous. Okay. That's time. 118. That's better than expected. Honestly, at the start of like when I was doing Spearmaster attempts, sub 120 was kind of a goal that I had. I was thinking about, you know, like I might get sub 120 eventually. I didn't think it would happen now, considering that I died a few times. Which I guess means that there's room for improvement, right? Maybe these 18 minutes are the minutes that I lost from dying so much. Because think about it, in Precipice, I died like 3 times. I died in just now in Sky Islands. I died, where else? entering underhang, right, to the drop wing. So that's like 5 deaths. 5 deaths, and still like a pretty decent time. Like that's a lot of room to improve. But also that's assuming that I can do a run where I don't die at all, which is just as difficult. At the very end of precipice. Well, yeah, that all counts. So that was like a big time loss because I had to go all the way back and then like spend time getting karma back. So I guess that's more room to improve than I thought. Because it felt like I might have spent like even more than 18 minutes. Actually, I kind of want to retime this run to see like how fast it would have been if I didn't die at all. I guess that's kind of what I'm going to see. Oops. On the statistics screen. I can never say that word. The end screen. That shows you all your stats. Yep. Maybe I'll see it there because that kind of roughly shows you how long the run takes if you by subtracting deaths. It doesn't count on there for some reason. The closest to the monk run. That's actually why monk is quite a popular category right now, especially their story percent run, because you go up to pebbles, you get some neurons, you go down to moon, to or to the submerged superstructure actually to grab the cloak, and then you give that to moon, and then you give her the neurons too, and then you go to outer expanse. Okay, they have 5 deaths. An hour and 4 minutes. So assuming that this timer is accurate, that's a really good run. If I didn't die. And I still made like plenty of movement mistakes, though. Sub hour is like probably possible. Although I don't know if I actually want to go for that. Why is the time different? I think this timer doesn't count deaths or echoes. Like if you go to an echo and it takes you 10 minutes, then 10 minutes will be subtracted from the time at the end because it doesn't count that for some reason. It probably doesn't also count karma. Actually, that's already how the timer works. It doesn't count karma caching. But this timer, this one right here, this is accurate. Is this accurate? Wasn't it like 1:18? So we got 3 different times. So I think that's going to be the end of the stream. Of course, I don't have enough time to do another Spearmaster run. I think I do want to do another stream of Spearmaster. When you finish Pebble percent, instead you beat it in like a minute. Yeah, that can happen. I think the entire path to Pebbles isn't counted because you exit out of the game, right? You exit out, so the entire trip to Pebbles is just like subtracted from the time. Vulture vision is affected by distance. I mean, like, before a vulture shows up in a room, like, what determines if a vulture will show up? Because they work, like, uniquely, right? Since they don't spawn from a den. They just kind of appear in the sky. So, yeah, I think I want to improve this time. I don't know if I want to do it for the next stream. I might actually move on to Saint. It's been a while since I played Saint. And it's actually a speedrun that I enjoyed and was one of the runs that I was planning on doing. Even before Rivulet. So yeah. That's the end of the stream. Yeah, story percent. Because I've run any percent, which is pretty much the same except for like a few small differences with the iterators. They just spawn randomly. I feel like it is determined by like if they can see you or if like exposed to the surface or like the sky. I don't know. Anyway, that's enough talking about random stuff. Thanks everyone for watching. See ya.